Hey, my name is Conrad, and today I'm going to be talking about the book Virtual Justice: The New Laws of Online Worlds, written by Greg Lostowka. In overview, I'm going to talk about the three types of castles, virtual property, the case of Bragg versus Linden, the case of Q Cheng Wei, gold farmers, avatars, the four player types, regulating technology, domain names, and wrap up with a conclusion. So the three types of castles Lostowka mentions are the Cardiff Castle, Cinderella Castle, and the Dagger Isle Castle. Starting off with the Cardiff Castle. So that's an actual medieval stone castle that was built in the 11th century in Wales in the United Kingdom, England back then, and served as an offensive and defensive purpose. It was also a visible base for the occupation and military domination of the local community. The castle was the center of a feudal society, where the lord was in control of the castle and the area, the land surrounding that castle. Next is the Cinderella Castle, which is the iconic fairy tale fortress, and it's also the center feature of Disney World, located in Florida, which is the largest and most popular theme park in the world. In fact, it's not a real castle, since it's made of decorated plaster bolted onto a steel frame, therefore serving no military purpose. It's actually owned by Disney World, but portrayed as if it's the residence of Cinderella, the fictional character of Disney, who is portrayed by an actress at the theme park with no legal title to her namesake castle. Last but not least, we have the Dagger Isle Castle. So this is not a tangible structure at all, but a representation of a castle that exists in a virtual world in a fictional location of Dagger Isle, Britannia, which is the imaginary world of a multiplayer game called Ultima Online. So an interesting fact is that in 2003, it was available for sale on eBay for almost $1,000. So this is a virtual castle owned by a user in a virtual world, where he or she can have control of that castle. So virtual property is an interesting concept. Users can actually spend real money and acquire virtual property and homes in a virtual world, like Second Life. So Coldwell Bankers Real Estate Corporation actually sold virtual real estate within the virtual world community in Second Life. Next, I'm going to talk about the case of Bragg versus Linden. So Mark Bragg, a resident of Second Life and virtual world home owner, spent several $1,000s for various parcels of Second Life land. However, Linden Lab, which is the company and creator of Second Life, banned Bragg for using a forbidden technique to purchase land that was not officially listed for public sale. Since Bragg got banned and lost all his money, he filed a complaint in the Pennsylvania State Court seeking reimbursement for his virtual property losses. So the next case we're going to talk about is the case of Q Cheng Wei. So Q's most valuable virtual property in Legend of Mir, which is not a virtual world, was a powerful magical sword called the Dragon Saber, which had a market price of in China of about 1,000 US dollars, which is the average annual salary in China. So what happened here was another user on the virtual world, which happened to be Q's friend, stole his virtual sword, and in retaliation, Q actually went to his residence and killed him with an actual knife. So he murdered the thief of his virtual sword. Q responded with murder to the virtual theft because the police did not prosecute the thief, since the police said that, in their opinion, he was just playing a video game and not actually committing a felony or a crime. Next, we're going to talk about gold farmers, which are users in virtual worlds that are acquiring gold in these virtual worlds by engaging in simple and repetitive tasks and then sell the harvested virtual currency to other users for real money. And this process is called gold farming. So these people can spend up to 12 hours a day harvesting the gold, and then the company of that virtual world can't ban the user, uh, making them lose all that money that they acquired and the time they spent, since gold farming is not allowed in most virtual worlds. Next, we're going to talk about avatars, which actually means divine incarnation. So, avatar bodies in virtual worlds often have little or no relation to the bodies of their controllers. Avatars make virtual worlds zones of pseudonymity. Despite the functional, strategic, and consequentiality of gender in most virtual worlds, users have long been exploring virtual worlds in avatar drag, also known as gender blending. Female avatars are sometimes preferred because they receive more social attention, assistance, and gifts. The downside is that the attention can also take a form of sexual harassment. Some female gamers prefer to play as a male avatar to avoid these sexual harassments, and many female avatars are also often designed to be highly sexualized, making some female players uncomfortable to play as them. Ostafka also mentions the four player types. In his words, he says achievers try to accomplish game objectives. Explorers test and explore the game system. Socializers chat with others, and killers enjoy dominating other players. Next, we're going to talk about regulating technology. So, technologies that are understood as threats to state power or social stability receive faster and more comprehensive regulatory consideration by legislators. Technologies that are viewed as relatively harmless, like most forms of entertainment technology, are rarely the subject of the careful legislative deliberation. For example, aviation law evolved slowly throughout the past century, even though there were many safety risks, but the aviation technology also significantly evolved over time. The law of virtual worlds will most likely grow gradually and even slower than aviation law. So some legislators have passed consumer protection laws in virtual assets, but no governments at this time are taking a comprehensive approach to the regulation of virtual worlds because the technology is still too new and unfamiliar to most lawmakers. So people are bringing their individual claims and disputes to courts and other legal authorities which are tasked in applying existing laws into virtual worlds. They have been struggling to adapt pre-existing law to internet technology. A domain name is a part of a network address that identifies it as belonging to a particular domain, being easily identifiable on the internet by linking names with numbers, ultimately with specific computers. So the owner of a domain name is essentially a person who owns the right to associate a particular word or string of letters with a particular computer on the internet. In the 1990s, the ownership of domain names was handled on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you asked for a domain name and that name was not taken, you would generally get the name. In 1994, under these permissive rules, Joshua Quittner applied for and received the domain name www.mcdonalds.com. He published an article about it and the news spread, encouraging people to do the same. So when most of the companies went to create their first web pages and found them already taken, they turned to the law, bringing trademark-based lawsuits. In 1999, Congress responded to the situation by passing the Anti-Cyber-Squatting Consumer Protection Act, ACPA for short, a law that explicitly recognized legal rights to domain names for the companies that held corresponding trademark rights. The law even allows companies to initiate in rem legal proceedings or suits against the domain names themselves, which was previously only limited to cases involving tangible property. In the in rem processings under the ACPA, courts can order that the ownership of the domain name be transferred to the successive plaintiff. Judge Kaczynski stated that, like other forms of property, domain names are valued, bought, and sold, often for millions of dollars. In conclusion, the legal issues will probably become more vexing and complicated as virtual worlds become more popular. Virtual worlds are becoming, in essence, separate jurisdictions governed by separate rules. Virtual sovereigns are making their own currencies, crafting wealth from their own societies, fine-tuning their own economies, and baiting those who flaunt their decree. In summary, I talked about three types of castles: virtual property, the case of Bragg vs. Linden, the case of Q Cheng Wei, gold farmers, avatars, the four player types, regulated technology, domain names, and a conclusion. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching.